Honestly, I really bought into Papoose's loyal, devoted image for a long time. For years, he came off like the perfect husband, standing beside Remy Na through every single battle and setback. Even the skeptics questioning his intentions were mostly brushed off, and fans believed he was being unfairly judged. But now that spotless image is starting to crack right in front of everyone. And as more things get pointed out, it's getting harder just to ignore what's unfolding. The vibes just feel off. Since Pap started being seen more around Claressa Shields, his energy and media behavior have noticeably shifted. And this isn't me throwing shade at Claressa. She's an absolute elite force, a real champion, and a self-made powerhouse in every sense. But that's exactly why people are starting to talk. At first, he was tied to Remy Ma, a straight-up hip-hop legend in her own lane. Now he's being linked in conversations around Claressa, another dominant woman at the peak of her career. Coincidence? Maybe. But while Claressa was celebrating a huge recent victory, Pap ended up back in the spotlight in a way that had people questioning his intentions. Is this real love, or is there something more calculated going on behind the scenes? And even outspoken critics like Tasha K are circling the situation, making the whole thing feel even messier than before.
And taking advantage of her whole life. She's been boxing since forever. I don't know her childhood, but I do know that her best friend who grew up with her came out and made some rather disturbing videos about Claressa being taken advantage of when she was younger as a young boxer by her coaches and getting pregnant and things like this. And so when I see people like Papoose enter the Cash App requesting money from people like Claressa, after Remy has already warned us that, he preyed on her when she was in jail. He wasn't making no money. It was Remy's money. And she said she put everything in his name only to come out and then have to work. And then he's getting the benefit of the solid black man, of the black man that's holding everything down. So when I look at this same thing possibly being done to Claressa, and she's slow by default, and I'm talking about slow as in, she probably got some early stage, some issues going on, being knocked around, it does have an effect on your brain and on your cognitive thinking and stuff, and you're not able to see straight. And if she was already taken advantage of by her coaches, surely it's easier for a bum like this to come in and take advantage of her too. And so when I saw his latest post after her fight, after he let her get out the car with that Beyonce butched outfit on, I was a little disturbed by that, because I said any man in their right mind would have told their woman, no, we're not going to post the outfit just so we can reiterate and y'all can bash her for how awful she looks. But her man let her get out the car like that, okay? And then he was her hype man beside her. And so after she won, again,
Tasha K jumped straight into this already spiraling situation. And while her takes are always messy for everybody involved, a few of her points actually stuck with the audience. She suggested that Claressa Shields may have been surrounded by the wrong people for years, especially certain vultures around her camp, such as trainers and coaches. Tasha also brought up some of the tougher parts of Claressa's journey, including the fact that she was fighting while pregnant and pushing through serious physical and emotional pain. In the middle of all that chaos, Papoose posted a public tribute to Claressa after her latest victory in the ring. In that emotional message, he called her performance a masterclass and praised her for balancing elite athletic success with her personal life. He went as far as calling her a queen and placing her among the greatest names in boxing history. But then, one particular line in that post set the internet completely on fire. Papoose claimed he was actually working behind the scenes with Claressa's team and even shouted out his own people for being involved. That single detail flipped everything upside down and instantly sparked a wave of speculation across social media.
Scenes executive standpoint, what does that position entail? Exactly. What behind the scenes? Claressa was winning before she met you, but because she been getting knocked around by people and by her coaches, I just feel like Papoose is a virus that just refuses to let his hair just fall out. And he sees black women the same way that Tyler Perry doesn't. Wants to take credit, and then from a behind-the-scenes executive standpoint, meanwhile, you the main person causing the problems.
What was supposed to be a clean victory lap for Claressa Shields turned into a full-on viral storm within minutes. When Papoose dropped that long emotional post after her dominant performance in the ring, everybody expected a simple supportive shout-out. Instead, one small line in that caption completely flipped the narrative and sent people digging into his real intentions and his position around Claressa's world. At first, the post looked harmless. Papoose praised Claressa like a true fan, calling her a legendary figure, describing her win as a masterclass and hyping her discipline and greatness under pressure. He even elevated her to queen status and placed her among the greatest names in boxing history. To the average viewer, it looked like relationship goals on full display. But then came the line that changed everything. Instead of keeping the focus strictly on Claressa, Papoose started highlighting his own involvement behind the scenes. He referred to himself as part of her executive staff and credited his own circle for supporting her journey. And to the internet, that shifted the entire meaning of the post in seconds. What was supposed to celebrate Claressa's achievement suddenly felt like someone inserting themselves into her spotlight. That's when the backlash really started building. Trolls picked apart every word, with some defending it as simple support and others calling it completely out of line and self-serving. The argument split fast. Some said he was just being helpful behind the scenes, while others felt someone else's ego was overshadowing Claressa's moment. Things escalated even further when Tasha K stepped into the conversation, and even though she thrives in chaos, some of her commentary clearly struck a nerve with viewers. She suggested that Claressa may have been surrounded by questionable influences for years, and pointed out that elite athletes can be exploited when personal relationships overlap with business. Tasha also revisited Claressa's painful history, reminding everyone she's fought through serious adversity just to reach the top. According to her, that kind of resilience can sometimes make champions too trusting of the wrong people around them. Whether you agree with Tasha or not, her comments poured fuel on a fire that was already out of control. And now, the big question is unavoidable. Is Papoose genuinely just a supportive partner, or is he positioning himself inside Claressa Shields' career for something bigger? To really understand why people are questioning it, you have to look at Papoose's background. He built his reputation as a respected lyricist through years of credibility in hip-hop. For a long time, he was praised for being Remy Ma's loyal partner, holding down the image of commitment and stability. More recently, he stepped into an executive role at TuneCore, taking on a position focused on hip-hop leadership and industry decision-making. On paper, it sounds impressive, but critics argue that a corporate music role doesn't automatically translate into the sports business world or the management of elite athletes. Because at the end of the day, Papoose comes from music, while Claressa's world is built on boxing contracts, training camps, and sports management structures that operate on a completely different level. That is exactly why critics are side-eyeing Papoose for calling himself an executive figure in Claressa Shields' professional world. His real expertise is artist development and music industry metrics, not sports management or athletic strategy.
And while he may be offering support, encouragement, and emotional backing, critics are questioning whether the public framing is more about boosting his own image than actually contributing substance. To them, the issue isn't that he's being supportive, it's whether he's positioning himself in a way that elevates his brand off her success. And that suspicion gets even louder when you compare Claressa's resume to where Papoose is right now professionally. Claressa Shields isn't just winning, she's rewriting history. She's an Olympic gold medalist, a multi-division world champion, and widely considered one of the greatest female fighters of all time. Her legacy is built on dominance, discipline, and decades of proving herself at the highest level. Because of that, fans are questioning what direct professional value Papoose is actually adding to her already established career. There's no clear evidence that he's negotiating major deals, structuring contracts, or unlocking opportunities she couldn't already access herself. So for critics, the narrative starts to shift, and it begins to look like the relationship benefits his visibility more than her career trajectory. And then they start digging into his past. Throughout his long relationship with Remy Ma, Papoose was widely praised as the embodiment of loyalty and support, standing by her through her incarceration and personal struggles. But after that chapter ended, rumors and allegations started surfacing that challenged that clean public image. Talk of financial issues and questionable decisions began circulating online, though much of it remains unverified and speculative. Still, that kind of narrative sticks in people's minds and influences how they interpret his current behavior. And when you combine that history with his increasingly visible role around Claressa Shields, critics start asking whether there's a pattern forming.
Another point people bring up is age and maturity. Papoose is in his 40s, and many argue that at that stage, a man should already have a fully established, independent financial and professional life. From that perspective, inserting yourself heavily into a partner's career can start to look less like collaboration and more like dependence. That's the part critics keep coming back to. There's nothing wrong with a woman out-earning her partner, and modern relationships come in all kinds of dynamics where success isn't limited to one side. But critics argue the problem starts when one person's identity and momentum begin to revolve entirely around the other's success. To them, that's the real distinction being debated here: support versus dependency. And many people even compare it to Jay-Z and Beyoncé. Jay-Z publicly supports Beyoncé's wins, but he also has his own global empire, legacy, and influence that stand on their own. That's why that relationship is viewed as a true power pairing. Both individuals are giants in their own right. Critics argued the dynamic with Papoose and Claressa doesn't feel as balanced. Claressa is currently at the peak of her career, ranked among the most dominant champions in boxing history. Papoose, while still respected as an OG in the culture, isn't currently operating at that same level of commercial or professional spotlight. And that gap has people asking whether Claressa is the one carrying most of the financial and public weight in this relationship. That's the exact dynamic that makes some viewers uncomfortable. They argue that a true power couple is built on two independent foundations, not one person rising while the other benefits from that rise.
But on the flip side, supporters are completely rejecting that narrative. They insist Papoose has his own income, his own accomplishments, and his own steady lane that doesn't depend on anyone else. To them, his public praise of Claressa is just genuine love and loyalty, not a chase for attention or clout. They believe that acknowledging his role doesn't diminish her greatness in the slightest. Instead, it reflects how real relationships often include behind-the-scenes support that the public never sees. And that perspective matters because relationships are never as clean as social media makes them look. What people interpret as strategy from the outside might simply be affection and pride from a partner. A few captions and public posts can't fully explain someone's real intentions. But at the same time, perception is everything in situations like this. When one partner repeatedly highlights their involvement in another's biggest career moments, it can easily come across like they're trying to share the spotlight. And that's exactly why this debate keeps escalating every time new posts or comments surface.